We're approaching the halfway stage in F1 2001. The Canadian Grand Prix has a lovely habit of producing great dollops of drama. Enjoy the race now in the company of Martin Brundle and Murray Walker.
And what a fabulous, fabulous sight that is. An absolutely unique Grand Prix location. The Ile Notre Dame here in the St. Lawrence Seaway. And the great hero of Canada, Gilles Villeneuve, whose son Jacques is starting here from 9th position on the grid. Well, this weekend so far has been dominated by a lot of nasty politics and a lot of unpleasant words between some of the drivers. But now it's the race, and here are some points to establish. This circuit is a car breaker. If you can go the distance here, you're doing well. Brakes take a terrible hammering. Tyres, well, Ralf Schumacher there, second on the grid, is on the harder compound Michelin. He thinks that's an advantage. Michael Schumacher, his brother alongside him in pole position, is on the softer Bridgestones. We'll see. David Coulthard there in third position on the road. This is a circuit where you can overtake, but let's hope there's not too much of that at the first corner here, because that's the one where there is so often trouble. Tremendously close here this morning in the final half hour of the warm-up. There was just over 1/10 of a second, listen to this, just over 1/10 of a second covering the top 6. Incredible. Jordan going well. Ricardo Zonta returning to Grand Prix racing with Heinz-Harald Frentzen out after his crash at Monaco, third fastest this morning. The McLarens 2nd and 5th, the Ferraris 6th and 8th. Does that mean they're on a 2-stop strategy? We know that Eddie Irvine, 15th on the grid there, and the Jaguar on the softer compound Michelin's is on a 1-stop strategy, so we can expect to see him sprint through the field. The opening lap or two is going to be sensational.
Well, of course, we've seen many accident here going into that first corner, and it's just fast enough to build up serious head of speed, as we've said. And then all hell breaks loose as they all point at the same piece of tarmac. I think it's a better than evens chance Ralf Schumacher will be into the first corner first. Watching their practice launch control, and we saw them back in Austria, both Williams absolutely flying off the grid. But Michael seemed better this morning. Coulthard also getting some good launch control starts in, so even Stevens, but I think Ralf may just have the edge down to that first corner. He's on the Michelins, of course, the harder Michelin, and there is a story in the paddock that they tend to fade away a little bit for a few laps. We've heard that before, but when we've seen that Williams out front, it tends to march on. For sure, the Bridgestones are blistering, but the drivers are not aware of it until they come in the pits. They're not losing time on it, but can they do a full one-stopper late into the 40-odd laps into this race and get away with blistering rear tyres? Little heat bubbles in the rubber, it bursts open. Normally you feel a vibration, you lose grip, but the drivers have not been feeling that. But this also, Murray, is about brakes. It's a very heavy braking circuit, some new braking systems out there, even this weekend on the grid, and I think brakes are going to play a key part in the later stages of this race.
I noticed that 2 or 3 of the teams, Sauber and Jordan amongst them, are copying this magic braking system that Ferrari have had on the front of the cars since the season began. And they're certainly going to need it here, as you rightly say, because the brakes take an enormous hammering. I remember Heinz-Harald Frentzen a couple of years ago, very well placed in the race, went out in the closing stages when he went into, guess what? Yes, the wall that you have seen so many of them crash into.
And we saw Trulli's tyre blankets coming off. He's electing to start the race on scrub tyres. Brand new rears then look for Barrichello, and rather tatty looking fronts, and it'll take a couple of laps for that the rolled up rubber on the top of Barrichello's front tyres to come off. And that was the dark horse of the race, I think. Panis in the BAR, and straight then on to Räikkönen. Räikkönen, the young Finn, out qualifying the double world champion Mika Häkkinen, fellow countryman, and they're in 7th and 8th position.
Perfect organisation and timing. There is 8 seconds to go, and then you will see them get away on the formation lap around this 2.7 mile circuit. That's it, 1 o'clock local time, away they go, and you'll see this magnificent circuit. You've heard Martin, and here he is again.
Sorry, 2 BARs very slow away there. Panis, one of them. Will they be able to stay in the pack? I think they have just done. So the BARs slow to get away, but they've stayed within the pack, Murray, so they can rejoin their original grid position.
Yeah, and let's not forget that McLarens have had launch control problems in the past, not once, not twice, 3 times. They said for the last race at Monaco they didn't expect a problem. They'd had 1,000 starts. Didn't help David Coulthard very much. He's confident here though. And Jarno Trulli there in 4th position in the Jordan Honda. 4 different constructors on the 2 front rows of the grid. Ferrari, Williams, McLaren and Honda. It could be an extremely open race. But I say again, to finish here is very good indeed. It's hot, it's not all that hot. The track temperature is 33 degrees, the air temperature is 24 degrees. I would say just about ideal circumstances for racing. But it's a very tough, unforgiving circuit. The Armco is further away than it is at Monaco, but it's still mighty close. It's like driving through a vast steel tube.
They've got to watch those concrete curbs at the end of the lap. There are other ones of those around the track, but they're not really in play. Those 2 final bends are very much in play with the nasty curbs, and we've seen Hakkinen rip the floor out of his car twice during the weekend. And of course, over and above all of the other accidents we've shown you earlier in the programme, as they fly through the air into the wall. So they'll be giving quite a lot of respect to that final chicane in the first 2 or 3 laps until they find their braking point. They'll all be carrying a lot of fuel, especially, of course, the one-stoppers. And they'll need to be sure they start edging into those braking zones instead of total commitment on lap 1.
Yeah, that's the one thing we don't know about these strategies. The one-stopper should be from a lap 34 onwards, but we will just have to wait and see, and I'm sure James Allen will have some information on that later on. Ralf Schumacher 2nd on the grid. Mika Hakkinen 8th on the grid. He's got a lot of work to do.
Just saw Coulthard throw something out of his cockpit. They're still forming up at the back, still warming up their tyres at the back, which they shouldn't really be doing. Practice starts are not allowed on the green flag lap, but finally then, the back of the grid forming up, Murray.
Craig Pollock intent looking at his 2 drivers. Olivier Panis is 6th on the grid. Jacques Villeneuve is 9th on the grid. It is a 69-lap race. They are all ready to go. They've been a very long time held on the front row of the grid, and now the lights. When all 5 go out, the Canadian Grand Prix will be go, 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 go! Michael Schumacher gets away, well, his brother gets away. Michael Schumacher on the inside at the left. Ralph tucks in behind him. Now, are they all going to get around? It looks to me as though we're okay so far. Yes, it's a good start for the Canadian Grand Prix. Great news, and in the lead, the Scarlet Ferrari of pole position holder Michael Schumacher with his brother Ralph in 2nd place. Look at the way that Michael is already starting to pull away, and David Coulthard still in 3rd position where he started, followed by Trulli, followed by Barrichello.
Crucial then for Michael Schumacher. Ralph made up the 4 or so metres he was behind, but could not go round the outside, and that is crucial. Michael can get away. We think Ralph's qualifying performance was exceptional, probably put his car higher up the grid than it should have been, and it's Coulthard now that faces the problem of Ralf Schumacher in the early stages.
Yeah. But Martin, Barrichello has got ahead of Trulli. Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari, who started 5th on the grid, has passed the yellow Jordan Honda of Jarno Trulli, and Trulli has now got Olivier Panis tucked up underneath his rear wing. Lap 1 of 69. Now this is the dreaded chicane.
And Verstappen making a move up the inside. You see it, we just cut away, unfortunately. Verstappen then making a move on Raikkonen for 7th place. So another charge early on from the Dutchman.
0.3 of a second, the lead of Michael Schumacher at the end of that first lap. Look how closely they are packed together now. The first 4 round turn 2, and into the pits comes the Benetton of Fisichella. Look at that right front. He's hit something very hard indeed. That is the first retirement of this year's Canadian Grand Prix. Giancarlo Fisichella out of the 2 Ferraris. The Williams and the McLaren of David Coulthard are 1, 2, 3, 4 together at the front, with Barrichello making the pace at the moment.
Yeah, Barrichello very fast and already harrying Coulthard. Be interesting to see the fuel loads, but Barrichello then appearing. He had a bad grid slot, as we know. Maybe he's running a bit lighter to try to make up in the early stages, and that's worked out well so far, already clearing Truly, as you point out. So Schumacher 0.3 ahead at the end of the first lap, closely followed by then a Jaguar and
Eddie Irvine out, and one of the Saubers didn't see which one. It's Heidfeld, Nick Heidfeld. They were together on the previous lap. They were 11th and 12th. Maybe Heidfeld was trying to get past Eddie Irvine, I don't know, but whatever, they are both out of the race, so that's 3 cars out. Heidfeld, Irvine and the previous retiree, and over the line they go. Now that is into the 3rd lap. Michael Schumacher has increased his lead to 7/10 of a second, but over the first 4 there are only 1.7 seconds, with a gap developing between Barrichello, who is 4th, and Jarno Trulli 3 seconds behind in 5th place.
Yellow flag, waved yellow flags, and Marshall's on track. How much will the drivers yield? Not much by the looks of it. They're still pretty much on the gas, and here we're going to see the start. I'm not sure what we... Oh, and that's Villeneuve not getting away. Is that the green flag lap that I told you about, the BIR slow way? Yeah. Yes, it is. I think that's a replay of the green flag lap, actually, although Villeneuve is... where is Villeneuve in the race at the moment?
13th at the present moment, but behind Pedro de la Rosa, so just one Jaguar out, and that's very tough indeed, because Irvine has been going... That's what happened to Fisichella. He was hit, he bumped into his teammate, Jenson Button, as Bernaldi went through on the inside of the chicane and straight down the pit lane. It couldn't have happened in a better place or a worse place as far as Fisichella's concerned.
And look at Barrichello shaping up for a nice slipstream on Coulthard. Now he has the right position too, so Barrichello probably with a bit less fuel, making it work beautifully and quite easily then past the McLaren in the early stages. Barrichello on the move.
Yeah, don't start getting depressed, you McLaren fans, because it could well be that Rubens Barrichello is on a light fuel load and that David Coulthard is on a heavier fuel load, and we know that the McLaren is extremely fuel efficient. They demonstrated that at Monaco, and David Coulthard could well be just held up momentarily, just losing 1/10 of a second here or there because he's in a heavier car. But whatever, Barrichello is certainly searing through the field. He's closing right up now on Ralph.
And that was a replay then. It looked like Irvine tagged the back of Heidfeld as they were in turn 8, and the pair of them straight into retirement. So Barrichello closing quickly in then on Ralf Schumacher.
Fastest lap of the race, Ralf Schumacher. He's just gone round in 1:20.7, and that compares with the lap record. It's 1.7 seconds off the lap record held by Mika Häkkinen last year. And Schumacher, Ralf, is closing a little on his brother, but it looks to me as though Michael's got things well under control. So it is Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher, Barrichello, Coulthard, Trulli is 5th, Panis is 6th, Verstappen is 7th. Excellent, that, excellent. And Kimi Räikkönen is 8th.
Bits of Benetton bodywork flapping around as they break into the final corner. That can easily puncture your tyres. But Barrichello then a new fastest lap by a long way, a 1:19.9, and Michael sitting pretty. He's got his brother and he's got his teammate between himself and his main championship contender, David Coulthard. And here we see the move. Barrichello with track position, greater straight line speed, having pulled nicely out of the slipstream of that McLaren and made it stick well.
And where is Mika Häkkinen, who started 8th? He is 10th. He's lost 2 places. He's been repassed by Ricardo Zonta. Kimi Räikkönen, who started alongside and slightly ahead of him on the grid, is still in front. And it's still Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher, and Barrichello pushing. The young Brazilian who's driven for Stewart, who's driven for Jordan, of course, 2 pole positions in his career and 1 win. And James Allen has got news.
Yeah, that was expected, I think, by the McLaren team. They believed that Rubens Barrichello was going to start this race on a 2-stop fuel strategy. They think he's going to come in for his first stop around about lap 26. He's carrying about 30 kilos less fuel, which is about 9/10 of a second a lap around here. Advantage over the one-stopper cars, which are the ones in front of him and David Coulthard. Interestingly, just before the off, guys, I saw Ron Dennis and Pat Fry working on Coulthard's car, looking very concerned. They went up onto the pit wall to look at Coulthard's car as it went for the start. There's something, Martin saw something being thrown out, but there was a little concern there. We'll try and follow that up.
he threw something out, looked like a piece of tape or something from inside the cockpit, maybe a piece of padding. Hopefully shouldn't really affect his race. The problem for Barrichello is he needs to clear that Williams. If he's on a light fuel load, we're pretty sure that he is, and to make that pay off this afternoon, he needs to clear that Williams very quickly, because I'm sure his teammate will then let him through. Michael Schumacher will let him through if he's on a different strategy.
And you're looking at Trulli, who is 5th, Panis, who is 6th, and Verstappen, I'm sure, is on a light fuel load in the arrows. He's done that in the past. It looks to me as though he's doing it again. He's in 7th place.
And that's Montoya getting extremely close to the back of Mika Hakkinen, 10th and 11th. Hakkinen, I saw in the background, getting very leery into turn 3 on the first lap of the race. That's why he slipped back down to 10th.
Barrichello spins it. Sorry, Martin. Barrichello spins out as he tries to get past Ralf Schumacher. He's kept the engine running and through stream. That's Verstappen, who's just gone through. And behind him, Raikkonen and Zonta. It's a bad, bad blow for Rubens Barrichello.
Curious how you can spin a car these days in a traction zone with traction control, Murray. Very unusual. I'll need to see a replay of that, because I was looking at the data computer up here, but maybe Barrichello clipped a curb or something. But surprising that he can. I haven't seen a car spin there for years, actually, on the way out of that corner, especially with traction control. Here we go then. Look, he comes off the inside of the curb. Yeah, just lights the rear wheels up. Yeah. So something awry there, I think, with the electronics.
Well, he's down to 14th place now, behind Enrique Bernoldi, the man who caused all the controversy at Monaco by staying ahead of David Coulthard. But I tell you who I think is in a very strong position, and that's Ralf Schumacher. He is 1.1 seconds behind his brother Michael. I believe he's on a heavy fuel load, because he was only 10th quickest in the warm-up this morning. We know he's on the hard compound Michelins. We know they like the heat. The track temperature is now 33 degrees. Looking good for Ralf Schumacher, looking better for Michael Schumacher at the moment, leading on lap 7 out of 69.
I think Jenson Button's got a stop-go penalty for jumping the start, Murray. Let's just have another look at that computer. 10-second stop-go penalty for car number 8. Jump start, and I believe that is Jenson Button.
And the race order on lap 7, as we look now in the background at Rubens Barrichello. Here is Trulli, and he is followed by Olivier Panis, who's followed by Verstappen. There is the arrows. Next one through after Verstappen is Raikkonen, and then behind Kimi Raikkonen, Ricardo Zonta and Mika Hakkinen. So we're on lap 8, we are over 1/10 distance already. Retirees, Fisichella out early, Irvine and Heidfeld had a coming together, so that is 3 retirements, and into the pit lane comes Jenson Button now for his 10-second penalty. It's not going to make much difference to the Benettons, to be quite honest, because after having had a dreadful 7 first races, except for just the 1 point in Brazil from Fisichella, they're not showing much better form here in Canada, and again we wait and wait for the improvement that they confidently say they're going to have in France, and that is 2 races from now. Lap 8 then. Michael Schumacher is now 1.4 seconds ahead of his brother, who is 4 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. But this race is going to go on like this until the pattern emerges with pit stops. Some people will be on a 1-stopper, which is usual here. Some will be on a 2, which is comparatively unusual, and we're on going to a break. Out of the pit lane goes Jenson Button after his 10-second penalty. And here is Jenson Button with Michael Schumacher leading on lap 10. But watch in the background the orange arrows of Jos Verstappen. He's driving absolutely superbly in the Asia Tech powered car, and he is in 6th position. And look at the way he's pushing Olivier Panis in the white VAR, who is chasing Trulli in the yellow Jordan. And they are 4th, 5th and 6th.
Now Verstappen coming out of the last turn so much faster than Panis. Going to go down the outside. Panis surely can close him off. We've seen Verstappen often running with a lower fuel load at the start of the race, and it makes him remember in Kuala Lumpur, where he was effectively virtually leading the race. But it doesn't pay off. You pay the price later on, of course, during the Grand Prix. While you're away, Alonso has dropped out of the race. Jenson Button has made his 2nd pit stop. The first was for a speeding penalty. The second was for a change of tyres, and I saw his mechanic pointing at the nose saying there is some damage too. Louise, what can you tell us?
I'm going to have a chat with Giancarlo Fisichella 4 times on the podium, but it wasn't to be this time, was it?
Yeah, unfortunately, Bernardi had a problem in the hairpins with his engine. I don't know what happened, it stalled, something like that. And in acceleration, I went on his back of the car and I broken my front nose. And then in braking for the last corner, Jenson overtook me, but he comes completely on my line, and there was no front nose and no front downforce. So when I went in braking, I just went on his car. Very sorry about that.
Thanks, Giancarlo.
Lap 12, the thing that's interesting me is the lack of progress of Mika Häkkinen in his terrible season that he was having. He started 8th, he dropped to 10th, he's now in 9th position. He can't get past Ricardo Zonta, who is 8th on his return to Grand Prix racing as a result of Princeton not being here. And this is Jacques Villeneuve in 13th position, and he is now chasing Barrichello in the Ferrari, who's threading his way up through the field after dropping down into 14th place with that spin.
Yes, fastest man in the race earlier on, 19.9, was Barrichello. By the time he recovered across the various stretches of grass he made it into with the spin, he went down to about 14th or 15th. Benoldi pitted, that led him through 1 place, and now he's passed Villeneuve for another, and already chasing De La Rosa down next in the Jaguar. So Barrichello once again making his way through the field. What's surprising me, Murray, in a way, is that Trulli is hanging on to 3rd place man Coulthard without too much difficulty, and dragging Verstappen, Raikkonen, Zonta, Häkkinen and Montoya pretty much along with him.
Yeah, we can't really draw any conclusions, as I keep saying, until after the pit stops. I'm surprised that David Coulthard is now nearly 10 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Maybe that can be accounted for by a heavy fuel load on one and a lighter fuel load on the other. And the same thing, I suppose, could apply to Mika Häkkinen down in 9th place. But I've got a feeling that it's clutching at straws a bit as far as McLaren devotees are concerned. But Rubens Barrichello is certainly the quickest man on the track. He's just gone round in 1 minute 19.8, which is just 0.8 of a second off the lap record, which was held by Mika Häkkinen last year. And Barrichello closing right up now on Montoya. Barrichello is in 11th place. There is Verstappen in the orange arrows, chasing Olivier Panis. Now look back, and at the screen now, Eddie Jordan and Ian Phillips sitting on the Jordan gantry watching the race develop as Coulthard, Trulli, Panis, Verstappen, David Coulthard. He's finished in the points every race this year.
Yeah, Coulthard then I think will be disappointed at this stage of the proceedings. A full 10 seconds off the leader, as you pointed out, Murray, and very much with that pack able to stay in touch with him and looking to confirm that problem. Häkkinen there really struggling along down in 9th place, but remember, we know Coulthard pitted on lap 64 in Monte Carlo. We know they can get a lot of fuel on board that McLaren, and we may see them picking up speed as the first stint goes on. And Montoya shaping up for a run. Which way will he go? And is he close enough to have a go at Häkkinen? It doesn't appear so. Barrichello's got his hands full now, trying to pass Montoya, who's trying to pass Häkkinen. But we've seen Barrichello so fast down the straights.
Yeah, Pedro de la Rosa behind him in the Jaguar, but you're looking at the battle for 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Zonta in the yellow Jordan. Hakkinen in the silver and black McLaren, Montoya in the Williams, and here we are coming through, and lapping is the Ferrari as behind him. Ralf Schumacher still in second place, and look how close it is now. 0.8 of a second. Ralf Schumacher, as they got through the traffic, has closed right up on his brother. Now, if the Michelins do go off, and we know they do after the beginning of the race, and then come back again, and we're on to lap 14 now, as Ralf Schumacher is constantly having a look for a way past. He's probably got more power, surprising as it may seem, from his BMW engine than his brother Michael has from the Ferrari. Anyway, it is a colossal scrap.
Down to just 0.4 of a second then, so Ralf a full 0.4 faster. We've got a carbon copy situation, but in reverse at the moment. You've got Michael Schumacher fending off the Williams of Ralf Schumacher. Further down, you've got Barrichello trying to pass the Williams of Montoya for 10th and 11th. But right now, this is, of course, the main race on the track. Ralf Schumacher, if he's got any tyre problems going away, I think that phase of the race is over, Murray.
Yeah,
I think he's got a fast motor car underneath him.
Yeah, lap 15 now. You can see the two leaders. There they are. David Coulthard is third, 10 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Jarno Trulli in the Jordan fourth. Olivier Panis is fifth. Verstappen is sixth. And those three are absolutely together. Kimi Raikkonen is in seventh place. Magnificent. Ricardo Zonta, a superb drive on his return to Grand Prix racing. He is in 8th position in the race, and he's ahead of and has passed Mika Hakkinen. Montoya is 10th, followed by Rubens Barrichello. And everybody up to 17th now has been lapped. Jenson Button, of course, has been in for a 10-second stop and has been lapped. Alonso is out, Heidfeld is out, Irvine is out, Fisichella is out. The brothers Schumacher exit the chicane and go through and complete their 15th lap into lap 16, and the gap between them, half a second. That was the gap between them on the front row of the grid after qualifying. It's mighty close.
These two brothers were in a class of their own, in my view, in qualifying yesterday, and that's certainly the case then in the race today. They've got the cars working very well, but look, what a menace Ralf is going to be for the rest of the afternoon. I don't think Michael's going to easily pull away from that Williams, and Ralf looking very secure. Michael will remember the mistake he made here and clouting the wall, taking himself out of the race, and he won't be wanting to do that. He could well do without this pressure from his little brother.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher has driven in twice as many Grand Prix as his brother. He is 7 years older, but there are those that think that now that Ralf Schumacher is developing as well as he is and has got rid of the wildness that he had when he started with Jordan, he's going to be more than a match for brother Michael from now on, particularly as Williams, BMW and Michelin hone the package. David Coulthard third, Trulli fourth, Panis fifth, and in sixth position still the magnificent Jos Verstappen. When is he going to have to come in? We're on lap 15 now. If he's on a two-stop strategy, I would think he's going to stay out there for at least another 11 laps. And Bernaldi was accused of holding up David Coulthard at Monaco so that his sponsor could get the maximum amount of television coverage. Well, Jos Verstappen has done a superb job for them this year, and he's doing a fantastic job for them here in Canada. Trulli, Panis, there is Jos the boss, the very tough, pretty determined Dutchman who runs a karting school at Marseille, where he lives. And now Louise Allen has news.
It's Louise Goodman-Murray with Eddie Irvine, who's finally made his way back to the paddock. Eddie, we didn't really get a clear view of what happened. What can you tell us?
It's just, you know, car felt good like it did this morning. You know, we've made a big setup change overnight, and it's just transformed the car. And you know, the car was back to the way we thought it should be, and trying to make up ground, and didn't do it. But you know, the greatest overtaking maneuver on Heidfeld, and two of his touched. You know. But I had to get stuck in. There's no option when you're 15th on the grid.
Thanks, Eddie.
Or even James Goodman. Sorry, Louise.
Yeah, well, that's as near you're going to come from a racing driver to admitting fault. I didn't do the greatest overtaking manoeuvre. In other words, I ran into him, but at least Eddie had the good grace to virtually admit that anyway. But he was trying to make his way through the field. Ralf has been stunningly fast in the middle sector of that final, the last lap. A new fastest lap of the race then for Ralf Schumacher that time around. The gap down, according to the computer, to 0.4 of a second. Looks a bit less than that to me now.
I was talking to my wife earlier on. She said, I do hope the brothers Schumacher don't get too violent with each other. And my answer to that is both of them have said we've raced against each other for years and years and years in karts. We know where one is good and the other is not so good, and you don't have to worry. We are not going to take each other off. Well, first of all, Ralph has got to get right up with his brother before he can attempt to get past. We're on lap 18 now. Ralph Schumacher has again gone faster than anybody else has been. He's knocked 0.2 of a second off his previous fastest lap. They still haven't got down to quite the lap record speed from last year, but it's getting quicker all the time as the fuel load goes down.
Yeah, so it's Michael who's pulling the fastest first sectors, and Ralph clawing 0.3 back through the middle part of the lap. The man under pressure is Coulthard in third place, 12 seconds off the lead, now just 0.6 ahead of Trulli, and losing 3/4 of a second to Trulli last time around. So Coulthard coming under pressure. Meanwhile, Ralph keeping the pressure on Michael too.
Yeah, and this is bad news for McLaren and bad news for David Coulthard, because at the present moment, Michael Schumacher's on a maximum 10 points. His teammate Barrichello is a long way from being in the points at the moment. He's in 11th place. But David Coulthard, who is 12 points behind Michael Schumacher in the World Championship at the moment, is now a further 6 points behind, the difference between first and third. Jarno Trulli driving an excellent race. It really is time this young Italian was able to finish where he deserves to finish. He's had all sorts of problems. He's an excellent driver. He led a Grand Prix as long ago as 1997 for Prost in Austria, and at the present moment he's fourth, still ahead of Panis and Verstappen.
Verstappen you're looking at there then, so there is that train, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, and it's very, very close. There's just over 2 seconds between the lot of them, and James is down in the pits.
Yeah, definitely something amiss, I'm afraid, with David Coulthard's car. He should be, even if he was carrying a little bit more fuel, he'd be only about 6 or 7 seconds behind the leaders, not the 12 or 13 he is. Pat Fry, his race engineer, has now come off the wall. He's in the garage, and they're working on the spare car. There's obviously something on the spare car that they want to either take off or learn from, that when David comes in, they can change it. There's something he's fighting in that car, guys, and that's the reason he's off the pace.
Yeah, look at this battle behind. Zonta in the yellow car is 8th. Then there's Mika Hakkinen, Montoya and Barrichello. There's the Scarlet Ferrari of Barrichello having a look at Montoya. And the chap who's holding them all up in comparative terms is Kimi Raikkonen in the Sauber with the yellow mirrors. It's Raikkonen, Zonta, Hakkinen, Montoya, Barrichello, all virtually nose to tail, because Raikkonen is going slower than the rest of them behind him can ideally go. I've said it's in again comes Jenson Button. His teammate Fisichella was the first retirement after he had lost virtually his left.
Two cars in the wall of
It's a Ferrari. It's Barrichello. Sorry, Martin. Rubens Barrichello out of the race. Now, debris on the track. Who was the other car? You can.
I think there'll have to be a pace car situation there. You've got two cars in the same place, and we think it's Montoya, of course, so they were nose to tail. Maybe Montoya went off and took Barrichello with him, and the safety car is out. That's the only thing they can do. Safety car deployed then. That's a breath of fresh air for a few people, because that is a very closed area. You can see for yourself, trees either side of the racetrack. It's very difficult to clear the cars from there. It's the exit of turn 4, just before that nasty turn 5 where Panis smashed up his legs. Safety car then picking up the leaders, and the pack will close.
Beautiful timing from the point of view of the safety car as it came out of the pit lane. Michael Schumacher and brother Ralph closed up behind it. Now we're on the lap 21 out of 69, and it's going to be even closer when the safety car pulls in.
So yes, as you say, at the end of 21. Let's see how many laps, and that is, look, yes, Montoya goes off, as I thought. Barrichello crashing, trying to avoid him, and that's the second race in succession where Montoya's made an unforced error. Barrichello really swerving to try to miss the stranded Williams, and just putting himself straight in the wall. But the smart drivers will now turn the mixture down to lean, cruise round in top gear, and for every 2 laps under the safety car, they can normally save virtually a lap of fuel, and that'll enable them to go further before that first crucial pit stop. So the thinking men should be getting that done right now.
Well, it could be a big bonus for David Coulthard. He was 14 seconds behind. I was talking earlier on, I know the McLaren mechanics were all ready to make a stop for one or other of their drivers. Whether it was Coulthard in third position or Mika Häkkinen down in ninth place, I know not. But as they round the hairpin, it's pace car. Michael, Ralph, Coulthard, Trulli, Panis and Verstappen. And the marshals pushing the Ferrari out of the way. We're leaving Canada. We will be back. Lap 22, the safety car came out at the end of lap 20, so 2 laps behind it. And of course the field has closed up considerably. You can see Michael Schumacher leading his brother. There's David Coulthard, Jarno Trulli in 4th position.
And here we go, Montoya loses the back of the Williams in turn 4 there, overcorrects, slams into the wall, hard on the brakes, but there's nothing going to happen from there. Barrichello having to spin in sympathy, really, in the hope of avoiding a car that decelerated from probably 80 miles an hour down to 0 in about 10-12 meters. Barrichello very unfortunate to get caught up in that incident. Very narrow through there. It's like a street circuit effectively around this Montreal circuit. In this lap then for the safety car, the race will restart at the end of this lap, and there we see them going through turn 4. That's where the wreckage was of the 2 cars. So a half a lap to go then. James is down in the pits.
Yeah, well, David Coulthard seriously considered a pit stop during that safety car period. There's something broken in the front end of his car. They've been studying the front of the spare car. I think it might be the mounting point of a barge board or something like that, but it's not something massively serious because it's obviously a very finely balanced decision whether to pit or not. Coulthard obviously reluctant to make the stop. The team was all ready for him, and of course he's made back the 13 seconds he'd lost on the leader.
Yeah, certainly not conducive to him pushing though. Pedro Della Rosa has benefited from the accident between Barrichello and Montoya. He's moved up to 10th position behind Mika Häkkinen.
You can see Michael Schumacher keeps smoking his front tyres. He's trying to warm his brakes up and his tyres, but going at it a little bit too hard, and he wants to be careful he doesn't create some nasty flat spots there. It gives you a vibration, and at a couple of 100 miles an hour, you can't see where you're going because your eyeballs are vibrating too. But all the cars then, all the drivers trying to generate some heat in the brakes, in the tyres, ready to restart at the end of this next straight.
Still no scheduled fuel stop. Well, hello, what's that bit of debris on the track? Has it been spotted by the marshals? Where is it? Well, it is somewhere round about turn 5. I was saying, still no scheduled fuel stops. I was expecting them round about lap 26, and this is lap 23. But of course, they will be extended now.
Michael then has got the jump on Ralph. Michael caught them sleeping a little bit there, and he is away, and he's opened up a small gap. Coulthard then managing to haul in that 12-second deficit, courtesy of the safety car. And this is slow puncture territory we're in here, because a lot of debris on the track. Two Benettons running into each other. That's Verstappen out of sixth place.
Yeah, he was sixth, if you remember, and as I expected, he's on a two-stop strategy.
Yeah, Penny didn't stop under the safety car then, because he's wasted that opportunity. But as I said, slow puncture territory. Two Benettons into each other, Irvine into Heidfeld, and now Barrichello and Montoya both in the wall big time. And Michael, look, making the most of this restart.
Yeah, although you can't crouch in the cockpit because you're so tightly belted in you can't move, Michael Schumacher, when he's really trying, as he is now, gives the impression of crouching. His head seems to go lower in the cockpit. He looks over the side of it, and he's putting distance between himself and his brother. David Coulthard holding on, and Trulli and Panis. Between the top 5, there are 3 seconds.
And remember that Ralph on the harder Michelins, although it's difficult to know whether they're harder than the Bridgestone, but clearly taking longer to get those tyres up to temperature than the Bridgestone runners that are all around him. And Michael, look, just waltzing away in the distance, and now I think we can expect to see Ralph beginning to once again close that gap.
And Kimi Raikkonen for Sauber in the points again. He is in 6th position ahead of Ricardo Zonta, who is returning to Grand Prix racing with a flourish. Trulli is in 4th position in the Jordan Honda. His teammate Ricardo Zonta is in 7th place. The top BAR, which also uses the Honda engine, is Olivier Panis. And Jacques Villeneuve is having a torrid race. He's down in 10th place, not even looking like being in the points at the moment. But there are still going to be a lot of retirements. Lap 25.
2.6 seconds faster then on that opening lap was Michael Schumacher over the rest of the field. He really has got that supreme confidence when there's an unknown level of grip. We see it on a wet, dry day. We see it under all sorts of circumstances, and he's made it stick. It's a personal confidence he has behind the wheel, and that's opened him up a handsome gap.
It's funny how, in comparative terms, the wheels seem to have fallen off the McLaren wagon this season, with Mika Häkkinen still struggling along in 8th position, having retired this year already 5 times from 7 races. David Coulthard, of course, has had 2 superb wins and has been in the points in every race, but he can't do anything about Ralf Schumacher, he can't do anything about Michael Schumacher, who are still racing ahead of him on lap 26 out of 69.
The McLaren not looking well hooked up in the race, but I mean, clearly they have been going much faster in recent races. But Häkkinen's not at his best, Murray, when he's back in the pack like that. We've seen this quite often from him. He doesn't seem to like necessarily charging through the pack at all times. On other days, we see some stunning performances from midfield, and Bernaldi then out of the race.
Yep. Mika not at his best when he's having to charge, as you rightly say. So that's yet another retirement. That leaves 14. And the last car now is Jos Verstappen after his pit stop. He is the only driver in the 14, with the exception of Tasso Marquez in the Minardi, who has been in unseen by us. Where on lap 26, here is the order after the safety car has returned, and you can see they're getting pretty spread out already. Ralf Schumacher 2.5 seconds behind his brother and 1.5 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. You can see how close Trulli is behind him, and Panis is behind Trulli, and that's down to 5th position. Kimi Raikkonen is 1.5 seconds behind Panis, still in the points, 6th position. Zonta is 7th, Häkkinen is 8th, De La Rosa in the Jaguar is 9th, Jacques Villeneuve is 10th.
Michael Schumacher, a new fastest lap, a 1:19.4. He was over half a second faster than anybody else. But Ralph now pumping them back in a 19.3. He is able to respond now that his tyres are up to full operating temperature. So Ralph then has got a 2.4 second gap to close down And if the performances are the same as in the first part of this race, pre the safety car, Ralph should now start closing in again on his brother.
Yeah, perfect example of the fact that as a racing driver, it's not all reflexes. You have to think a great deal, and Ralph Schumacher had to remember that he mustn't overcook things on the Michelins. He's got to let them come up to the right operating temperature, which they now have undoubtedly done. 2.4 seconds, the reduced gap between the race leaders, Ferrari and Williams and BMW. And still the McLaren of Coulthard is third.
We saw Raikkonen under braking for turn 8, and see the black dust coming out of all the cars. A lot of black dust coming out of the Sauber. I hope Raikkonen still has some brakes left towards the end of the 69 laps, but now you can see the pack beginning once again to spread out. Where's Ralph this time around? So far, he's about a 1/10 of a second up on this lap as Verstappen then, who made that pit stop just after the safety car came in the pits. He is now, he's just taken 13th place back. So Jenson Button is out of the race, of course. So go through the retirees. Montoya crashed out, unforced error. Barrichello falling off in sympathy, nowhere to go. Button, technical problems. His teammate ran into him early in the race. Alonso just pulled off. Heidfeld out when he got pushed from behind by Eddie Irvine, and Fisichella running into the back of Button early on. And that is the retirees of the race so far. And Ralf Schumacher has got the gap down to 2.2 seconds as you look at Panis, followed by Raikkonen, Zonta, Hakkinen, Della Rosa, and somewhere down the road, Villeneuve.
Yeah, don't relax, Michael, says Ralph, because I am after you. 2.8 seconds, 2.6 seconds, 2.4 seconds. It's now 2.2 seconds because Ralf Schumacher is lapping consistently 0.2 of a second faster than his brother. Now, whether this is because Michael knows exactly what the score is and is pacing himself just where we're not yet up to halfway through the race. Lap 34, 35 is going to be half distance. We're on lap 27 now.
Look at Della Rosa shaping up to the back of Hakkinen, coming down into there's Della Rosa, pulls out of the slipstream now. Will he be able to go to the inside? No, not able, not confident to step on the brake pedal that late. Hakkinen then maintaining 8th position.
Yeah, Mika Hakkinen's problem, of course, is that he wants to get past Riccardo Zonta whilst he stops Pedro de la Rosa from doing the same thing again. Off goes Luciano Berti in the Prost, well down in the field. He's 12th out of the 14 runners that are still going round out of the 22 who started. And Bertie's teammate, Jean Alesi, in the other Prost, is only 1 place higher up the field in 11th position. 14 cars left, 22 started. You can see how close it is. This is a typical Canadian Grand Prix. We see more nose-to-tail racing.
So then the two Schumacher brothers up front, and they're in a class of their own. Michael's just done a 1:18.9 now. 19.0 for his brother. They're over a second faster than anybody else on the racetrack. Coulthard just edging 0.9 of a second ahead now of Trulli. That was the yellow Jordan of Zonta you were just looking at, still maintaining his position ahead of Hakkinen Della Rosa.
That's a new lap record then for Michael Schumacher, the first under 1 minute 19 here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And Ralf Schumacher goes faster again. He's got it down. It's still maintaining that 0.2 of a second advantage. He's just gone round in 1:18.6, which is nearly 0.3 faster than his brother. And the gap is now down to 2 seconds. And just as Ralf Schumacher closes up on his brother, he pulls away from David Coulthard, who is now 8 seconds behind Michael and 6 seconds behind Ralph. And he's only half a second ahead of Jarno Trulli. We heard from James Allen that there is some problem at the front of the car. Don't know exactly what it is. It doesn't seem to be slowing David much, but it is undoubtedly slowing him. But Michael, look at this. We know how reliable the Ferrari is. It seems to be virtually bulletproof. He's very, very seldom had trouble for the last 3 or 4 races, which takes him out in terms of engine, gearbox, suspension, or the other things. Louise Allen, what is it?
With Juan Pablo Montoya. Juan Pablo, your second race when you've gone out with an accident in a row. Just tell us about that one.
I don't really know what happened. It was very strange, you know, like I know Monaco made a mistake, but here, you know, I was doing exactly the same every lap. and when I went over the curve, suddenly the rear just stepped out really weird.
Now, you collected Rubens in that one. Did you have a chance to chat with him on the way back?
Yeah, I didn't really touch him or anything. When he saw I was going wide, I think he went very early in the power, and the car just stepped out as well.
Thanks, Juan Pablo. Back to Murray Brundle.
I'll get it right next time, Louise. Into the pits comes Pedro de la Rosa, loses a place, of course. Shauna Lacey goes past it.
Have a look at this. Ralf Schumacher, 1:18.3. Just took 3/4 of a second out of Michael. The gap now down to 1.4 as you watch De La Rosa rejoining in what will be last place but one. That'll be 13th then for De La Rosa. The first scheduled stop of the afternoon, I would suspect. And now, look at the gap, Murray.
Yeah, I don't know what's causing the gap to reduce. It could be the superior grunt of the BMW engine. It could be the superior Michelin tyres, because Williams were very, very happy after qualifying yesterday when Ralf did that sensational lap and started second on the grid. They weren't expecting to be as high as that. And I was talking to one of their top men afterwards, and he said, we are very, very happy about tomorrow, Murray, because we've got the harder compound. The Bridgestones have been blistering, and this could help us enormously. It is doing just that. 7/10 of a second. It's come down from 2.8 seconds to 7/10. You can see how close they are.
Every lap he's doing at the moment, Ralf Schumacher, is a new lap record. There you go again, 1:18 of a second. And it's Coulthard who's under pressure now, lapping 1.7 seconds off of Schumacher's place. In third place is Coulthard. Truly is just 0.3 of a second behind him. So Coulthard not able to get back up to speed again. Wonder what it is, wonder what he threw out of that car on the start line. But this is a virtuoso performance from these two brothers up front and a mile clear of anybody else.
Yeah, Verstappen and De La Rosa have made their stops. They are 12th and 13th. The top 11 in this race, we're on lap 32 out of 69, have yet to come in, of course, especially the two you're looking at. And they are so close that this race could now be decided by the pit stop. If a Ferrari mechanic or a Williams mechanic dropped a wheel nut, or it took a bit longer than expected to get the wheel onto its studs, or something like that, it could change the positions. If they come in on the same lap, it's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch, and if they don't, it's still going to be terrific.
I think Ralph's surely got to have a chance of a nibble down into that last corner if he gets close to Michael in the slipstream. The Williams carrying a lot of wing this weekend. Normally they have had up to 5 kilometers an hour straight line speed advantage. They appear to have happily given that away this weekend to carry a barn door of a rear wing. And it seems to be paying off in the later stages of this first stint of the race. And Ralf then with a lot of grip, but surely he'll get a nice slipstream from the back of his brother's Ferrari.
Yeah, and why would they want a bigger rear wing? Because a bigger rear wing means more downforce means more grip means more transmission, and you can see David Coulthard now has got Jarno Trulli right on his gearbox. Just as Ralf is challenging Michael, Trulli is challenging Coulthard for third place.
Yeah, Coulthard looking well leery as well, turning oversteer everywhere, struggling to get the back end of that car in. I don't know when he's due in for a set of tyres. He'll be pretty relieved that maybe they'll even bring that forward, because Coulthard appears to have no confidence in the back of the car.
Yeah, and he is the only McLaren in the points. Mika Häkkinen still making no progress. Ricardo Zonta is just 0.3 of a second in front of him in the Jordan, driving a very fine race, and Mika Häkkinen can do nothing about it. Jacques Villeneuve is 0.9 of a second behind Häkkinen in 9th position, and Jean Alesi is 2.7 seconds further back in 10th place in the Prost. Jos Verstappen's been in, and we can expect him to move up through the field when the others come in.
Well, to quote Murray Walker, catching is one thing, passing is quite another. And Ralf, now he's in the dirty air, he's just in the zone. And Bertie in the pit lane, in the Prost again. I think that'll be scheduled. But now he's in the dirty air zone. He has lost 3/4 of a second per lap, and he's now just lapping at virtually identical times to Michael.
So there was a bit of debris on the track there that Ralf ran over, but we're on lap 34 now. It's surely not going to be all that much longer before they come in. one or other of them, and David Coulthard still just ahead of Jarno Trulli. Ferrari, Williams, McLaren, Jordan, BAR is still 5th, Sauber is still 6th. That is 6 different constructors in the top 6 places. Jordan are doing well in this race because Zonta is in 7th place, only 1 place off the points as the race leaders come through to complete another lap. That is the end of their 34th lap, and the gap is 0.6 of a second in. So there's 35 laps to go. 34 gone, 35 to go, including the one they are on. Half distance in Canada.
Coulthard edging a bit out on Trulli that time around, so stalemate in 1st and 2nd positions. 13 seconds now off the lead again. Coulthard, Trulli 7/10, and Villeneuve then with a problem. Villeneuve in pit straight with a problem, and that's a long way from home, of course. It's an entire lap. Now he has to be so careful, and he knows, he has a look. It's such a dangerous place to cross the end of the pit lane. If you come around the other side of the wall, you can have an enormous accident. They're already doing 150, 160 kilometers, 100 odd miles an hour. And what are we going to see here? We're going to see nothing. We're going to see Villeneuve just beginning to falter and sensibly getting out of Alesi's way.
Yeah, really, this is a jinx circuit as far as poor Jacques is concerned. Oh, and Ralf Schumacher right alongside Michael, who moves across quite fairly. But now the battle is really on. This is lap 35, and Ralf is giving his brother a very, very hard time. Michael under the most gigantic pressure. But he's got a clear track in front of him. He knows who's behind him. He knows it's his brother. And he's said time and time again, I love racing with Ralf because we trust each other. Poor Jacques walks in. This is, I think, the 5th year in succession that he's had something dramatic happen to him at Canada.
We think it's transmission, and look, this is how far alongside Ralf got coming down into the last corner, and not quite far enough in his view to make it stick. So that's where Ralph's going to make the move if and when he makes it. But let's remember, Michael's trying to win a world championship, Ralph's trying to win another race.
Yeah, very, very, very good point. Now, Ralf Schumacher, of course, won the San Marino Grand Prix. Jacques Villeneuve giving an interview. And whilst he's very anxious to win this one, he's going to be even more anxious to finish. And finishing is something that the Williams team have not been very good at this year because they've had...
Sorry, Murray, here we go. Look, Ralf really got a nice run out of the hairpin last time around, but does not even attempt it this time. And you can see him treading slightly cautiously here. Doesn't want to run into Michael, doesn't want to ruin his own race either. Tough call for him. They have run into each other before, back at the Nürburgring 2 or 3 years back. In the first corner, a very nasty accident that turned out to be, and they got caught up with various teammates on that one. Wasn't a direct, just a pair of them, but this is a tough call for Ralf Schumacher. He's racing for BMW Williams, he's not racing for the Schumacher family.
Yeah, as I was saying, Williams have had 11 retirements from 14 starts this year. Not entirely their fault, as out of the pit. Panis comes into the pit lane, followed by Zonta. Now it's a race between the mechanics now. I would doubt that the Jordan people would be able dramatically to beat the BAR people, but remember that the order when they came in was Panis and Zonta, and out goes Olivier Panis, and Zonta is already making his way down the pit lane, and it's the Jordan ahead as they come out onto the track with a clear circuit, and still Michael leads Ralf, Ferrari leads Williams, Ferrari engine leads BMW, Bridgestone lead Michelin, and Ralf is having a look all the time. Look to the left, look to the right, through the chicane, over the line to complete the lap, and that is 37 completed into lap 38. The gap, well, it's a visual gap, but in terms of time, it was about 0.4 of a second into turn 1, out of turn 2. Now they accelerate away round here, up towards the right and left at turns 3 and 4, which they are at now. Approach the right-hander at about 155 miles an hour as we look down now on David Coulthard and Jarno Trulli in the McLaren and the Jordan respectively, still third and fourth. And still on lap 38, none of the top 7 have been in. Yes, the 8th for Verstappen, 9th still. Hello, replay here.
I think it's Hakkinen who's going to be taking Räikkönen. So Hakkinen then, and Panis pits at the end of this lap. That's freed Mika Hakkinen. He's in 5th place. He's just done his fastest lap of the race, somewhere near the leader's pace, a 19.0. So Hakkinen then does have a fast car underneath him, and for the first time this race, a clear track ahead of him.
And the gap between him and Jarno Trulli ahead of him is 8 seconds. He's now very much in the points in 5th position. So both the McLarens are in the points, as in comes Olivier Panis.
So that's Panis' second stop,
Yeah,
Murray.
I was a
So
bit
some
baffled by
kind
that.
of drama. I wonder if they got any fuel in it. They had a long fuel stop, remember. We think his teammate went out with transmission trouble, and maybe Panis it's not a pit stop problem. Look, it looks a very similar problem to Villeneuve, doesn't it? A crawling BAR.
He's out. Panis has retired. Both the BARs are out. A big blow for them, because, as I keep on saying, there is a war between Jordan and BAR for the custom of Honda. They both want Honda engines next year. All 4 cars, the 2 Jordans and the BARs, have got them this year, and now both the BARs are out and both the Jordans are very much in. Jarno Trulli has just been into the pits, and his teammate Ricardo Zonta has also stopped.
Fastest man on the racetrack last time around was Mika Hakkinen. 4th place man now, Mika Hakkinen, because of Trulli's stop. 6.8 seconds behind Coulthard, and homing in at a 2.5 a lap. So Hakkinen's car working very well. Coulthard can't get his car working at all. Look how close Ralph is to Michael. Will he have a stab this time? And strange time to cut away, Mr. Director. No, clearly, of course, he didn't get through.
Yeah, of course, Michael is an absolute master of tactics and placing the car. There's very little between it at this point of the race between the 2 cars. I have the feeling that if Ralf Schumacher could only scramble past his brother, he could pull away. But he can't scramble past his brother. We're on lap 40 now. The window of coming in for a fuel stop on what is very clearly now a one-stop strategy for both these drivers is getting smaller and smaller all the time. Into the pits comes Kimi Räikkönen from 5th position, stops, up goes the front of the car, up goes the back of the car, off come the old wheels and tyres, on go the new ones, clean his visor, check that there's nothing in the radiators. Louise Goodman
Has Jacques Villeneuve with her, Murray. Jacques, you told me yesterday that this track wasn't fated for you. It's not exactly lucky though, is it?
Well, no, this weekend was really hard. It's the worst weekend I've ever had since I started racing, actually. We've had something go wrong every day. So it's been tough, yeah.
Just briefly, what's actually put you out this afternoon?
I'm not sure. I believe it's the clutch, but it could be something else. But
Louise, I must interrupt because I'm sorry. We were seeing another mighty challenge from Ralf Schumacher, but he just can't do it, Martin.
He just can't get near enough to have a brave stab. Later in the race he probably will, but it's too earlier days at the moment. And just to finish off what Jacques was saying there, he believes it's a clutch failure. It looked as if Ollie Panis's problem could well have been the same in the sister BAR just 1 lap later. But Ralph then has got the fastest car underneath him, I think. I think with clear air, Ralph would be down there in the 17s by now.
Yeah. 10 retirements, and there are 12 left. You've heard the retirements. I'll go through them again in order of retirement as you watch Michael and Ralph fighting for the lead. Fisichella, Irvine, Heidfeld, Alonso, Button, Barrichello, Montoya, Benoldi and Jacques Villeneuve are out of the race, as is Olivier Panis. Last man running, Tarso Marquez.
Another scrap shaping up then is Hakkinen, 4th place man, closing in down to 3.3 seconds on 3rd place man Coulthard, and Ralph as close as ever. But as I said in Monte Carlo, the man in front of you in a slow corner will always, of course, be on the throttle a car length ahead of you and launch out of the corner. Is this the lap Ralph can do it? No, it's not.
No, and they're coming up to Luciano Berti to lap him. The young Brazilian who has switched from Jaguar to Prost is running last but one. He's 11th out of the 12 who are left. And both the Ferrari and the Williams are closing up on him. And if this happens at a difficult part of the course when they make to pass, as I've said in the past, it could be Ralf Schumacher's opportunity if Michael gets his passing move wrong. I would be very surprised if he did. as talented and experienced a driver as he is.
I think they should be bringing Coulthard in. He's losing too much time. Whatever his problem is out there, if it's tyres, he should be in now, because truly who he was racing with is out there lapping faster behind him because he's made his stop, but truly is going to slingshot past Coulthard. So is Häkkinen. So Coulthard then needs to keep his championship alive, hopes alive this afternoon. I think he needs to pit early. Häkkinen now, an 18.2. That is just about the fastest lap of the race. Not quite though, is it, Murray?
No, remember what I said about Jos Verstappen stopping early and he would recover? Well, he has recovered. He is now up into 5th position. Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows is up into 5th position, and here is Ralf Schumacher's opportunity again. Now this time he might make it stick. No, he won't, because Michael takes the racing line and brother Ralf just backs off that modicum to say, OK, Michael, I'll stay here and I will be back.
But it's very dirty up the inside there, Murray. It's so easy to go in there deep and then lock a wheel and bounce across those concrete blocks or across the grasscrete itself, and we can see the McLaren mechanics as Häkkinen then shaping up to pass Coulthard, as Coulthard does pit early. I think that is a smart move, or probably earlier than he could have, judging by how far these McLarens have gone earlier in the season. They saved fuel, of course, during the safety car period. James Allen.
I don't think it's tyres that's the problem. I think it's the front barge board is flapping. There's a lot of detritus as well, and debris in the radiators. The temperatures have been high, obviously, but slight delay as they get the fuel in, and he's away safely. But Coulthard, a smart stop. He was 25 seconds ahead of Trulli. It'll be touch and go as to whether he rejoins in front of him, but I think he has.
Well, he's just got ahead of... Oh, and look at this. Bertie moves over and lets the leaders through. Häkkinen is up into 3rd place, having gone as far as 9th for a very long time. Verstappen is up to 4th. David Coulthard is 5th. Schumacher, Ralf is having yet another look at exactly the same place, and again he backs off. Surely this can't go on much longer.
But Ralf knows if he snatches a break up the inside of his brother, he'll just career into the side of him or across the grasscrete, and he'll get a stop-and-go penalty if he makes a place by shortcutting the chicane. That's the problem up the dirty inside. Panis had rejoined the racetrack, and it looks like once again he's going to retire.
Well, here we are, lap 44, Schumacher, Häkkinen 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Coulthard 5th, Jarno Trulli 6th, De La Rosa 7th in the Jaguar, Kimi Räikkönen down to 8th, Alesi is 9th, Zonta is 10th, followed by Bertie, Marquez, and those are the 12 runners. And what you're seeing now is an absolute demonstration, complete proof of the fact that this is the greatest pair of brothers who have ever raced in Formula One. We've had the Mexican Rodriguez brothers, the Canadian Villeneuve brothers, the Fittipaldis from Brazil, the Schechters from South Africa, the Brabham brothers from Australia, the Stewart brothers from Scotland, the Brambilla brothers from Italy, and Mark and his brother Jordi Genet from Spain. But these two top them all by a very, very long way.
So no chance this time around. Verstappen then, remember he's on a 2-stopper. He's up to 4th place, Jos Verstappen. Häkkinen hasn't stopped yet in 3rd, and he's 24 seconds off the lead. But Häkkinen absolutely on the march since the traffic made pit stops or tripped over themselves. Suddenly he's been on a pace that would have enabled him to probably win the race. Strange that, his McLaren working very well. Will Coulthard's work any better with a fresh set of tyres?
1:18.2, the fastest lap so far. They're lapping at about 1:18.3, 1:18.4 at the present moment. So they're very, very much on the ragged edge of going as fast as they possibly can, as Michael tries to retain the lead. Ralf tries to take it. They are 25 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen. But it's good news for McLaren. There's 4 potential World Championship points for Mika Häkkinen, who thus far, and this is the 8th race of the year, has only got 4 points, so he could double his score at the end of this race. But David Coulthard down in 5th position, who needs every point he can get, with Michael Schumacher now 12 points ahead of him in the World Championship, is losing yet more points in comparison with the great German, who chases... Ralf chases Michael down to the chicane. This is the end of the 45th lap. Ralf follows in his brother's wheel tracks. Over the line they go. Now Mika Häkkinen should be about 25 seconds behind them.
Panis ran out of brakes. Remember us talking at the beginning of how hard this place is on brakes. So we've had the first car out of the race after 45 laps with braking problems.
Well, here is Mika Häkkinen alone on the track. Fastest lap, 1:18.1. This is showing exactly what you said, Martin. He's on his own now. He's got a clear track. He is really going for it. He's reducing the gap between himself and the leaders. I don't know if a superior fuel strategy or better fuel economy is going to help him, but if it is, he needs all the help he can get at the present moment.
Yeah, that's despite having a fuel flap open. Of course, the pits are sometimes left-handed, sometimes right-handed. There's 2 fuel flaps on a Formula 1 car, and they only use 1 per weekend. The other one they're not using this weekend is up on Häkkinen's car. Won't help the aerodynamics much. But, of course, Ferrari must be waiting for Michael. He will go straight down the pit lane.
And Ralf Schumacher takes the lead in the Canadian Grand Prix, and he knows now that he's got to go as fast as he possibly can to build up a gap with a clear track in front of him, and hope that when he comes in for his fuel stop, he will be able to exit the pit lane in front of his brother Michael. James.
60 kilos of fuel have to go into this car, as well as the 4 tyres. Anything more than 9 seconds stationary is a problem for Ferrari and could hand the race to Williams. Good stop, 8.4. Williams, the pressure is on you now, guys.
Yeah, indeed it is, and Michael Schumacher regains the track before Mika Häkkinen goes through in 3rd position. Now that is good, as very, very good as far as Michael Schumacher is concerned, because he now has got a clear track in front of him like his brother. But the race, this is the crucial point of the whole race. 1 fuel stop for Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari and Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW. Mika Häkkinen has still got to come in.
And look at this lap that Ralf is on, Murray. Look at the computer data in front of us. Ralf is on a stunning lap. So if he's got a couple more laps of fuel available to him, he could well leapfrog his teammates. Good news for Michael that he's able to have some clear traffic. And look, Ralf goes round again. He's had to pass a Jordan during that lap. Did that help him or hinder him over the line? And it's 1 minute 17.5. So he obviously cleared the Jordan down the straight, and that kind of pace will get him in front of the Ferrari.
Yeah, Ralf knows exactly what the score is. He is reacting magnificently to the challenge that's been thrown down to him by his brother and the Ferrari team. And it's showing too that the BMW engine appears to be more fuel efficient than the Ferrari engine. I was talking to Ross Brawn, the Ferrari boss, yesterday. I said, how's the fuel efficiency? And he said, we are struggling a bit.
Yeah, Michael then full 4 seconds slower. That was his out lap. And it was Ralph's hot lap, of course, that I'm comparing there. So Michael Schumacher definitely under pressure at this stage of the race.
And this is lap 48 out of 69, 21 to go. In comes Jos Verstappen again. Lap 48. This will be a 2nd fuel stop. Let's just check. Yes, they're all ready for him. Up goes the whole car. It's a rather slow stop. I tell a lie, it's a good one. 8.4 seconds, and Jos Verstappen lights up the rear Bridgestones up to the maximum speed. Through goes Tarso Marquez, who is 12th and last. And rejoining the race goes Jos Verstappen, as Michael Schumacher now 25 seconds behind his brother Ralf. But Ralf, of course, has still got to come in. It's going to be mighty, mighty close when Ralf Schumacher exits the pit lane.
I think Ralph's done enough on the track. Will Williams do enough in the pit lane? Another new lap record for Ralf on a 1:17.467 last time around. Michael, a 1:18.1 that time around. Surely then, Ralf has done enough. We'll be back very shortly.
of 16, lap 51 out of 69, and Ralf Schumacher has not, I repeat, not been in. He has stayed out on the track. This BMW engine must be incredibly fuel efficient.
He'll be in at the end of this lap, I'm sure of it. They must bring him in with this traffic. His laps, you can now see another new lap record, 1:17.2. He has easily done enough to leapfrog the Ferrari of his brother Michael, but he now, I'm sure, looking at in the pit lane, confirmed Williams will stop. There you see it for yourself. So Ralf then, the end of this long straight, will just shoot down the pit lane. He'll lose a bit of time, will he? No, he's cleared that car nicely, so no in-lap problems for Ralf. Surely he will come out in the lead. Watch the pit lane looming up now. Get the speed off before the speed zone now. And down he goes. It will be a reasonable run. Somewhere in the middle of the lane are the Williams team. And looks so slow, Murray, doesn't it?
Yeah, but this is the crucial point of the whole race. If they do a nice clean stop, and the Williams team are very experienced at this, on go the new Michelin tyres. The wheel now to tighten up now. Where is Michael Schumacher? Ralf Schumacher comes out of the pit lane now, and there is Michael in the background. Ralf Schumacher rejoins the circuit, and a roar of approval from the crowd. They can tell a real fight when they see one. And Ralf Schumacher looks, I'm going to be very cautious in what I say now, looks as though he is on the way to a second brilliant victory of the year, having won the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. Because he has come, he stayed out, he put up 4 successive lap records to increase the gap between himself and his brother Michael, and Michael Schumacher is now 6.5 seconds behind his brother with 18.18 laps to go.
So Ralf Schumacher then on his out lap. Michael will close him down a bit on this lap as he builds up full operating temperature on the brakes and tyres once more. We saw Ralf taking a bit of time to get up to speed after the pace car situation with those harder Michelins, which are working so beautifully this afternoon. It's harder to chase, it's easier to chase rather than be chased. Can Michael turn the table? So Ralf Schumacher leads Michael Schumacher. Hakkinen stopped and maintained his 3rd place ahead of Coulthard, who still has no pace despite the tyre stop. Some kind of drama going on with Coulthard, we don't know what. Della Rosa is 5th. I believe he will stop again yet. Jarno Trulli back in 6th place.
Yeah, it's good news for Jaguar fans after the disappointment of Eddie Irvine's early retirement when he collided with Nick Heidfeld, because Pedro Della Rosa, new to the team, is up there in 5th position behind David Coulthard. You can see how close the McLaren and the Jaguar are, and you can see that the yellow Jordan of Jarno Trulli is also that you can see the gap between them. As down to the dreaded chicane they come, and Della Rosa has a look. David Coulthard says no, moves across. We're on lap 53, 5.3 seconds the lead.
Yeah, you saw Della Rosa catapult into the pit lane there behind Coulthard. It's so easy to misjudge that. You've got one car slowing for the hit of the chicane and another not slowing because he's going in the pit lane. Often the scene of a few near misses. So that'll put Della Rosa back down the pack a bit. Kimi Räikkönen is next up then. He moves in to 6th place. Lacey 7th. He's stopped already. Della Rosa on a 2-stopper, I believe, will come out 8th. Where's no Verstappen? Just pips him through. So Della Rosa 9th.
And there are still 12 cars left in the race out of the 22 who started as we leave Canada. We'll be back, of course, for the final stages of the race. into the closing stages of the Canadian Grand Prix. Lap 55 out of 69. And Ralf Schumacher has not only pegged the lead over his brother Michael, he has increased it to 1 minute to 7.7 seconds with a lap of 1 minute 18.4. Mika Häkkinen is still in third position ahead of David Coulthard, who is closing on his teammate at the rate of about 0.3 of a second. Jarno Trulli in the Jordan is fifth. Kimi Räikkönen is in sixth place.
And Räikkönen has this man Lacey chasing him down for that final crucial World Championship point. But let me just remind you how Ralf Schumacher got ahead. He put in a series of stunning 1 minute 17, setting a new lap record finally of 17.2, taking a best part of a second a lap out of his brother through that stage of the race. Just before his pit stop, they had more fuel on board. Häkkinen cleared, Coulthard in the pits, unscheduled stop, terminal problem for David Coulthard.
Yeah, that is an unscheduled stop and a final stop too. This is going to be the first race of the year in which David Coulthard has not scored points. James.
It's burst of flame as he comes down, and the engine, of course, you can see for yourself has blown up, but he kept it going all the way down the pit lane. I'm looking for trails of oil, enormous amounts of smoke, but I have to tell you guys, I'm down here in the Williams garage at the moment, and they are so pumped up. I was talking to Patrick Head before this race. He said, we've got to get these boys back into the mentality that we come to a racetrack to win. It's been a few years since we had that mentality. I'm getting them back into thinking that way. And this weekend, we really feel that way. You remember in qualifying, they took the gamble to go with the harder Michelin tyre. They were thinking all weekend about the race, about coming here to get 10 points. And they are all so pumped up. It's incredible.
Mighty, mighty tough on David Coulthard, but it's a very rare situation that a Grand Prix driver will go through all 16 or 17 races of the year without a retirement. McLaren and David did a fantastic job to score points in all the first 7 races, to win 2 of them, to finish second in 2 of them, to be a third and then 2 fifths. But it's happened. The weakness of some element in the car has shown itself, and out goes David Coulthard. And that means to say that if Michael Schumacher can just finish this race second or first, and he's second at the moment, he's going massively to increase his already substantial lead over David Coulthard.
So Michael Schumacher is now driving for 6 points, Murray. He's now 1.5 seconds a lap slower. I don't know if he's got a problem. He's had some fairly slow laps, especially in the middle sector, maybe just conserving his brakes. He knows that this car of his brother's has been faster pretty much all through the race. When it was up to speed, he knows he can't chase it down. I believe he's driving for those 6 points. Häkkinen is 28.8 seconds behind Michael Schumacher in third place. So they're truly Räikkönen and Alesi then, 4th, 5th and 6th, Alesi in the points.
Yeah, great news for Prost, because Jean Alesi, the veteran, has only scored 1 point, and Prost have been out of the points for literally years, and it looks as though they're going to get one in this race. But yet again, I have to find superlatives, new superlatives, for this incredible young man, Kimi Räikkönen, who's making his first year appearance in Grand Prix racing. And this is yet another circuit that he's not raced at before, Canada. And here he is going round in the Sauber in 5th position. And it looks as though there's 2 World Championship points for him. He's already finished in the points twice this year, his first season of Grand Prix racing, in Austria and in Australia. And he is a phenomenon. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I hope Peter Sauber, for his sake, has got a very binding contract. We've heard a lot about contracts in the last few days. Well, Peter Sauber needs to have one that's made out of titanium and welded shut to keep Kimi Räikkönen, because all the top teams will be looking for this young Finn to join them. Lap 59, and you're looking at double world champion Mika Häkkinen in the only McLaren still in the race. Third position, potential 4 World Championship points to double his total so far. The 2 Schumachers lead as they have done all through the race, but now it is Ralf ahead of Michael with an ever-increasing gap. It is 12 seconds now. Mika Häkkinen is closing down very slowly on Michael Schumacher's Ferrari, not nearly fast enough to get second place unless Michael Schumacher has got quite a major problem that we're not aware of. And Jarno Trulli and Räikkönen, Jordan and Sauber head Jean Alesi and Prost, who is 6th. Jos Verstappen just out of the points, as he has been before this season in the Arrows, and 11 cars following the retirement of David Coulthard are still running.
First time then in 8 races, no points for Coulthard. His World Championship dreams going up to a certain extent in smoke this afternoon, but the season, I guess, is yet young, but it's looking tough. He'll be thankful of one thing, and that's that Michael at the moment is looking like a 6-point a day and not a 10-point a day. But Williams has not been the most reliable car on the racetrack, Murray, through this season. Even Sir Frank was moved to have a bit of an open moan about that earlier on in the weekend, but right now Ralph is the class of the field. We're going to take a short break.
Lap 61 completing now into lap 62, up to turn 1, then turn 2 goes Ralf Schumacher, who is pulling away from his brother Michael, who has very clearly decided to settle for 6 World Championship points for second place in the Ferrari. And provided the Williams reliability problems, of which they've had many during this season, do not strike again, it looks as though Ralf is in for a second superb victory this year, a second career victory for the German.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? You see that happen so often. He waited 70-odd races to be able to win a Grand Prix, and all of a sudden he's looking at his second one virtually immediately. It so often happens that you break through into a whole new level of performance, and we've certainly seen that from Ralf this afternoon. And that Arrows of Verstappen is about to lose its brakes. If I were you, Jos, I think I'd park that, because the front left brake disc has worn virtually through, and I'd imagine the I'm guessing here a bit, but I would imagine his brake pads are just about touching in the middle right now. Yeah, it was just here that literally Heinz-Harald Frentzen had a brake disc explode on him in the Jordan in the past, and went out of the race in a very strong position. P1, place 1 is the board that Ralf Schumacher sees as he rockets past the garages and into another lap. This is his third lap. They're resting in the Williams garage now. There's nothing they can do. Ralf Schumacher is consistently increasing his lead over his brother. It's now nearly 16 seconds. Mika Häkkinen in third place is not catching Michael Schumacher. Jarno Trulli, who is fourth, is not catching Mika Häkkinen. But Kimi Räikkönen and Jorna Lacey, as they are forcing each other, are closing up on Jarno Trulli. The gap is only about 5 seconds between the Sauber fifth and the Jordan fourth. Yeah, Lacey putting pressure on Räikkönen, fifth place man Räikkönen, sixth place man Lacey, and I'd imagine Kimi Räikkönen's another man with a soggy brake pedal. We've seen clouds of black smoke pouring off of his Sauber under braking since virtually the beginning of the race. You start to get a very long pedal towards the end, which does not inspire confidence when you're trying to lose something like 150 miles an hour in 100 meters or so. And Raikkonen then, really the only race left on the racetrack is Raikkonen 5th, Alesi 6th, 1.7 seconds apart. The lap before, now just 9/10 of a second apart. You're not watching it. That's Häkkinen, of course, in an easy 3rd place. 28 seconds behind Schumacher, 27 seconds ahead of Raikkonen.
So what does this mean in terms of the World Championship drivers and constructors? It means that Michael Schumacher on 6 World Championship points, as you look at Raikkonen closing up on the Jordan. It means that Michael Schumacher, going past the Jordan, going past Jarno Trulli and up into 4th position. So here's Jarno Trulli at the chicane, taking a wider line. Kimi Raikkonen tucks it in tight and rockets past the Jordan to increase his position, prove his position up into 4th place. Terrific.
Trulli's got a brake problem, I believe. Trulli then very slow in the last sector of the last lap in the first sector, and there he is cruising. Jarno Trulli, I believe, probably running out of brakes.
As Frentzen did in the Jordan, as I was talking earlier, not this year, previous year. So a bit of a problem for the Jordan team there, and we're on lap 64 out of 69 as Jos Verstappen is coming up now. Look at the arrows in the background. He is currently in, now where is he? He's in 7th, but he's going to move up into the points when he goes past Jarno Trulli. Jos Verstappen in the arrows, and he does it now, is back in the points where he was earlier in the race. He is on, I remind you, a 2-stop strategy. He has stopped twice. He's got his reward. He's only got 4 laps to go after this one.
I hope his left front brake, Verstappen's left front brake will stay the course, because that'll be a very well-earned World Championship point there for Verstappen. Running strong in the early stages, albeit on a little bit less fuel load, but Verstappen then up into a points position. But we know he must be struggling with brakes.
Yeah, and it's lap 65, so 66, 67, 68 and 69 to go in this long race, which is always so much of a car breaker, always so much of a brake wrecker. And as I said before the race even began, it's a race of attrition. 22 started, there are 11 left. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see a couple of retirements in the very few laps that are left, because as Martin has pointed out, and as you can see from the brake dust that is pouring out from some of these cars, they are right on the ragged limits of brake wear. Ralf Schumacher leads Michael by 18 seconds, leads Mika Häkkinen by 44 seconds, leads Kimi Raikkonen 4th by 71 seconds. Jean Alesi is only 2 seconds behind Raikkonen in 5th position. Jos Verstappen is 6th and has been lapped. So it looks to me as though a maximum 5 cars are going to go the distance. Probably not that.
Trulli then in the pit lane. We'll have to wait for confirmation of his problems, and the engine seems fine. As I say, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a shortage of brakes. New braking system on that car this weekend.
Yeah, and Trulli got very air-rated when he lost a potential 3rd place on the grid because he was made to park in the Parc Fermé. He really does seem to have very bad luck, this young Italian, and as I said earlier on, he doesn't always, in fact very seldom, get the reward for which his talent entitles him. Looks as though Ralf Schumacher's going to do it though. Winner in Italy, San Marino Grand Prix. He in 1998 was pretty disgruntled in Belgium when he was given team orders to stay behind Damon Hill, who gave Jordan their first ever victory, with Ralf Schumacher finishing in 2nd place. He goes over the line to complete his 66th lap. So he's just got those 3 laps now of less than 3 miles each, less than 9 miles now for a famous victory, the 2nd one for the Williams, BMW, Michelin, Ralf Schumacher partnership.
Michael swerving around. The plastic bags laying on the racetrack there, critical if they get in your air intakes. So Michael then just really driving for the 6 points, lapping 8/10 slower than his brother, but his brother's cruising as well now. They've been in the 17s, they're now in the 19s and 20s. There's nothing to be gained.
Oh, that's Verstappen. That's Verstappen out of the race. It's exactly what you said was going to happen.
Afraid so. You could see it coming. That's going to be a brake failure, and it always goes when you most need them.
What, Martin, that means that Jaguar are now on a potential World Championship point. The first one in the team for Pedro de la Rosa. Eddie Irvine, of course, finished in 3rd place at Monaco, and there is the spin that took Jos Verstappen, probably due to a brake failure, out of the race and promoted Pedro de la Rosa to 6th position in the Jaguar for 1 World Championship point. We're on lap 67 now, coming up to lap 68 as over the grid now goes Ralf Schumacher on his last lap but 1, and it's at this point in the race that I always like to give credit not only to the drivers but some of the other team people. Ralf Schumacher himself, of course, Sir Frank Williams, the great head of Williams Grand Prix Engineering, with his long-term partner Patrick Head, the top of the technical side, Sam Michael, who has done so much, and we mustn't forget BMW, Dr. Mario Tyson, who's done a superb job, nor Michelin, Pierre Dupasquier, the very wily Frenchman who has brought Michelin back into Grand Prix racing and is about to get his reward, a 2nd victory, which is something that I think even Michelin themselves didn't expect in their first season of returning to Grand Prix racing.
Very, very slow lap for Michael Schumacher last time around. Maybe he's just swanning along. He knows he's easily got 2nd place in the bag. Lacey then is up to 4th. 5th, sorry. Kimi Räikkönen takes that 4th place position at the moment, and as you said, Murray, De La Rosa, now you can see him, is in 6th place. So another point for Jaguar, and if he can get over the line, and Ralf Schumacher then commencing what must be his final tour.
Yeah, it will only be his 3rd finish of the year 2001. But 2 of those finishes, assuming he does the last 2.5 miles, which he's got now, are going to have been victories. And it looks as though Williams have beaten the reliability problems, because, as I said earlier on, the fact that Montoya is out of the race was nothing to do with the car. It was to do with a mistake that he made. It's great to see another constructor at the top. No discredit to Ferrari, no discredit to McLaren. They've both done over the years and are continuing to do an absolutely superlative job. But not many people like to see the same 2 teams winning all the time. And we're getting some real competition in Formula One now, back from Sir Frank Williams' team that has done so much in the past, had great names like Keke Rosberg, Nelson Piquet, Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill succeeding, and it looks now as though Ralf Schumacher is going to join that illustrious Hall of Fame as he enters that long straight for the last time, comes down to the chicane, 2nd gear, 70 miles an hour on the apex from 205 miles an hour to exit it, and Ralf Schumacher wins the Canadian Grand Prix for Williams, for BMW, for Michelin, and of course for himself. A superb win, and another brilliant drive, not only by Ralf but by his brother. Brothers are going to finish 1st and 2nd here at Canada. Still waiting for Michael. Here he is, 6 World Championship points, more in this race than David Coulthard. He now leads the championship by 18 World Championship points. So Michael Schumacher, I don't know what the problem was, but he won't be too unhappy. Mika Häkkinen finishes in 3rd place, having started 8th and dropped as low as 9th.
Well, the problem was Ralf in the Williams was faster, and that mid-sector, we could see that as soon as he could catch Michael easily, he couldn't pass him. But when he had some clear air, he obviously had a lot of fuel in the tank. He was able to really put in some stunning Schumacher-esque laps, and that launched him into the lead that he was never going to relinquish unless he had some kind of reliability problem. So Räikkönen comes over the line in 4th. Finn's 3rd and 4th. Jean Alesi with a strong 2 points for a very relieved Prost team, and well, De La Rosa won't. He's already in 6th. He's a lap down, so De La Rosa will not finish the Grand Prix in its full distance, and he then gets the final World Championship point.
Well, obeisance to Ralf Schumacher as we leave for a break, and we will be back.
Well done, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Das gibt's doch gar nicht. Siehst ja, ich bin neu.
presented to Ralph by Bernard Landry, the Premier of Quebec, the Premier Ministre du Quebec. To the winning constructor, the Williams, represented here by Jimmy Stanford, the trophy presented by Chief Executive Officer of Air Canada. To the second place driver, Michael Schumacher, the trophy presented by John Manley, the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. And to the third place driver, Mika Hakkinen, the trophy presented by Roger Pearce.